Figuring out what to pack is just as important as what not to pack when traveling. And there are a lot of things that used to be considered essential travel gear. I used to travel with a few of these things that I will discuss in this video, but times have changed. In this episode, I'll help you ensure that you take travel essentials only on your next trip. I'll go through the latest no-pack list for travelers, and I'll explain why experienced travelers no longer take these things on the road. Some of them are common sense. Some of them might surprise you. Let's do this. I said this in my episode about how to plan your travel outfits, but I'll say it again here because it's key if you want to avoid overpacking. Just in case has no place. So, although in this episode I'm talking about some specific items to skip when packing for travel that many travelers think they need, the reality is it's an individual matter. No two packing lists are the same. But the one filter that everybody can run through their packing list is the just in case filter. If you find yourself wanting to pack something because you might need it just in case, I encourage you to reconsider whether that item really belongs in your luggage at all. The first item that experienced travelers no longer pack is a passport cover. Now, by passport cover, I'm referring to the things that slip over each end of your passport, kind of like a book cover. They're on like every travel gear list, but they're not practical. Passport covers do offer some protection against wear and tear, but the challenge is you'll need to pull it out of the cover every time you present your passport to an immigration officer, and sometimes even airline check-in desks and airport security checkpoints. Not only would an immigration officer or whoever want to see the cover of the passport to double check its validity, but also now that most passport photo pages have scannable information on the bottom, it's easier for whoever's scanning it to hold the photo page against the hard cover and run it through the scanner that way. And they can't do it with a passport cover on. So, if you want to travel with a passport cover, you are constantly going to be slipping it in and out of the cover, which in my experience is way too finicky. Instead of a passport cover, I would suggest an RFID blocking sleeve or a passport case or wallet that the passport can slip into and out of easily. I'll leave some links in the description to some of my favorites. Personally, I always have this bag with me on travel days. It not only has RFID blocking sleeves for my passport, but it also has space for my phone, wallet, and other essentials that I need to have handy and on me all the time on a travel day. And it's so unobtrusive that I can even leave it on for my entire flight and my travel days, and it also has various anti-theft features. Again, I'll leave a link in the description to this bag as well as to a video that I created about it. A super common newbie mistake to make, especially when packing for your first longer term trip, is to buy too many special packing tools. Travel gear and packing tools are great, but too much of a good thing is too much, and hence not a good thing. If you dive down the rabbit hole of packing tools, you will find packing cubes, garment folders, compression sacks, vacuum bags, hanging wardrobes, toiletry bags, DOP kits, and more. Some of these packing tools are designed to help you save space. Some of them are designed to help you stay organized. And very, very, very occasionally, they can achieve both of these goals to help you save space and stay organized. Those are like the magic unicorns of packing tools. But most of the time, the problem is, even if it's designed to help you save space, packing tools still inherently take up some space, and they also have some weight to them. The other problem is, if everything is organized into various bags and packing tools, you're probably not going to make the best space of your luggage. It's really useful to have loose items that can fit into the various space and nooks and crannies between your larger items. And if everything is organized into some kind of bag or packing cube or whatever, you can't do that. And they're not going to fit together perfectly like Tetris in your luggage. So if you care about traveling with carry-on luggage only, for example, it's really important to be super selective of the packing tools that you use. So I am totally guilty of this next travel faux pas, which is to bring too many cables and chargers. In my episode about my travel tech bag, some people criticized the fact that I bring backup charging cables. While I was pretty staunch about making sure that I always have a backup for every single charging cable in case one of them fails, the pushback that I got was, how often am I so far away from any kind of store where I could buy a new charge cable that this would be truly necessary? Totally fair point. And I'm taking this on board for my next trip. However, I still stand by the advice to have backup cables and chargers with you if you're traveling somewhere rural or anywhere where buying a new cable or charger would be difficult or time-consuming or overly expensive. This is not how you want to spend your time abroad. Other than that, I'm pretty grateful for this feedback, and I'm going to see how I can further streamline my cable situation on my next trip. Now, one way you could have the best of both worlds would be to travel with two of these cables. This cable can charge 3 different kinds of devices on one USB-A or C port. The challenge I have with just this cord though is if this cord fails, then I either need to have another one of these fancy multi-cables, which may or may not be easy to find on the road, or I have to buy 3 new charging cables on the spot. As far as I'm concerned, 2 of these cords still takes up less space than 6 individual charging cords. So I don't know, what do you think? Do you travel with backup cables? Leave a comment below and share your travel tech strategy. I'd love to know. The next 2 items are admittedly a matter of personal choice, but there is no denying that they will weigh you down. And it's important for you to decide whether the weight and bulk is worthwhile. You gotta know where this is going. Books. I like a good paper book as much as anyone else. There is no substitute for the tactile joy of turning a page. But I will also admit, when I first started using e-readers, I never looked back. To be able to carry my entire library with me on this device is amazing. And it has some fun features that I use regularly, like the dictionary. If I come across a word that I might not totally understand in context, I can just hold my finger over the word and the dictionary definition pops up. This has been a fantastic way of increasing my vocabulary. In fact, I got so used to using this that a little while ago when I was reading a paper book, I actually put my finger over a word for a second, thinking I could see the dictionary definition. Now, I will admit, if you like to highlight and mark up paper books with notes in the margin and include little stickers and tags to passages that you'd like to return to, you can do this with an e-reader, but it's a little bit clunky. I regularly highlight passages and create bookmarks and notes within a book on my e-reader, and it does help me return to various passages or a part of the book that I want to remember. But I will fully admit, it's not as easy as with a paper book. But let's take this back to a travel context. When you travel and have to carry everything with you, a book takes up a lot of space and weight. I have a few 100 books and they take up no more space than this. As a long-term traveler, it would be impossible for me to travel with the number and variety of books that I have on this thing. I personally use and adore the Paperwhite version of this e-reader because I can set the screen display to be useful in whatever environment I'm in, whether it's bright sunshine or a darkened bedroom. The battery life is also epic. Along the line of books is an even more contentious suggestion of something that experienced travelers don't pack, and that is guidebooks. When I started traveling full-time, I will admit I had a few guidebooks, and they were great. But that was also a very long time ago, and my luggage was also about 3 times the size of what I travel with now. The sheer bulk and weight of a guidebook is reason enough not to use one. But also, in my experience, things are changing faster than guidebooks can. Businesses open and close, and guidebooks can get super out of date. In my opinion, there are way more current ways to find things to do and places to stay and eat at your destination. In fact, Google Maps is one of my secret weapons when it comes to planning itineraries, saving suggestions made by friends, and creating lists with notes on them. Check out my episode about my favorite travel apps for more information on how I specifically use tools like Google Maps. I signed off guidebooks for good when a guidebook experience of mine went horrendously wrong in Japan. I did a hike that was suggested in a guidebook that I found at my accommodation. The book was only a few years old, but things had changed so much that I actually ended up in a bit of trouble because the guidebook directions were so wrong. I got it on record too. You can actually watch a video of me starting off having a good time and slowly losing my cool as I lost my way, literally and figuratively, in my episode about what not to do on Mount Takao. Something else that most experienced travelers don't pack is expensive jewelry. First of all, I still haven't found a really good way to pack jewelry like necklaces so that they're well organized and they don't get tangled, and also in a way that doesn't take up a ton of space. Although I did recently see a cool hack about using a towel or washcloth, and I'm going to try that out and show you in a future episode. And I'm also about to order a mini jewelry organizer that I will test out and I will report back to you. But in general, some of the challenges of travel when it comes to the security of your stuff is that you need to hedge against 3 simultaneous risks: loss, theft, and damage. When you are packing and unpacking and moving from place to place, you increase the chances of losing something along the way. And when you're a traveler in a foreign environment, out of your comfort zone, and perhaps also standing out as a tourist, you're a target for theft. And of course, the more you're moving your stuff around, the greater the chances your stuff can suffer from various forms of damage as well. So with these increased risks, is it really worth it to bring that super expensive or greatly sentimental jewelry with you? I would argue no. And I would really say no if you're traveling to a country less developed than yours, or with financial disparities, where that expensive jewelry is downright inappropriate and makes you an increased target for theft, which could also affect your personal safety. I actually use the jewelry situation as an opportunity. I bring less jewelry than I think I need for my trip, so then I can buy something along the way. It makes for a great souvenir, and it doesn't take up much space. Next up on the no-pack list is a blanket. While airlines are increasingly not providing blankets on long-haul flights, or worse yet, they're charging for them, I think there are better alternatives to blankets that can be useful in more ways throughout your trip. For example, women go for a sarong or a pashmina. They pack down smaller and can be used in a variety of ways throughout your travels, satisfying both fashion and function. Check out my episode about style mistakes to learn how scarves are my secret weapon in a few different ways. Fellas, you're not excluded from the scarf situation either. These kinds of scarves are popular for guys and are useful in a variety of ways that include being an extra layer for warmth or even an impromptu towel. Speaking of towels, a big fluffy towel does not belong in your luggage. I personally travel with this small adventure towel, which does a surprisingly good job of drying me off. It takes up very little space in my luggage. It's also great as a gym towel, and it dries super fast. I've literally had this exact towel since I started traveling full-time in 2007. That said, it does a very poor job of covering me up if I need to use my towel for modesty purposes, and it does nothing to keep me warm if I want to use it as a blanket. An alternative towel that still doesn't take up a lot of space, relatively speaking, but can also be used for more purposes would be a Turkish towel. I know a few professional travelers who travel with one, and I'm always surprised in the number of creative ways that they can use it. Turkish towels are natural, lightweight, they absorb moisture really well and dry very quickly. They look nice, and they can be used as bath towels, beach towels, blankets, and more. This next item is something that, at one time, experienced travelers never left home without. In fact, that was the exact commercial slogan for these things for decades. Blank, never leave home without it. Do you know what it is? Traveler's checks. At one time, we never left home without them. These days, please leave home without them. Traveler's checks used to be a great way to travel with money in a secure way. You could cash them at banks and hotels and even some restaurants and vendors. And they were super secure because if they got stolen, they couldn't be cashed without your personal ID and signature. These days, traveler's checks are antiquated. They're difficult, if not impossible, to cash, and they're expensive compared to other ways that you can exchange currencies and get access to cash while you're traveling. In fact, I'm not even sure if most banks offer traveler's checks anymore. The most direct alternative to traveler's checks would probably be prepaid travel cards, which offer a degree of security, competitive exchange rates, and ease of use. But truth be told, I don't even use these because most of them have what I consider to be unnecessary fees. I don't have time to get any more into this in this video, but I do encourage you to check out my episodes about currency exchange advice, tips for visiting ATMs, and how to carry cash safely. I will include links to all of these episodes in the description, along with a bunch of other resources that relate to this episode. Speaking of cash, that is the last on this list of items that experienced travelers don't pack. There are a ton of ways to access and use cash while you travel that are way more secure than traveling with a wad of cold hard cash. Now, it does depend on the country you're visiting. There are a few developing countries where it's difficult to get cash, and it's advisable to bring crisp new US dollars with you to exchange when you're there. You can find all of this out with a little bit of research about your destination and the common ways to pay things while you're there. But those are the outliers. In other cases, even if the country you're visiting still largely relies on cash, you can get it from the ATM while you're there, and it's less risky than traveling with a big wad of cash. Check out the episodes that I mentioned earlier for everything that you need to know about traveling with cash. Is there anything that you used to travel with at one time that is no longer a good idea to take on the road? Is there something that shows up on travel gear lists all the time as recommended travel items that you disagree with? Let's keep this conversation going in the comments so we can all travel smart in style. I'm Nora Dunn, aka the Professional Hobo, and I'll catch you next time.